Do it right there.
So we're just going to welcome everybody to the Leedz Edutainment podcast. This week, we brought to you by Chubby Chickpea Restaurant. This week, a very special guest, Mr. Rhythmatic Eternal King Supreme, Reks himself.
Peace. Bless. Peace. How are you, fam?
Good. Man, we've known each other for my whole entire music career. You were rapping before I started, but we've known each other decade and a half at least, I think.
These little facts, absolutely. Yeah.
I want to take people back, as I always do. People always think Boston hip hop's one thing, but you're actually from Lawrence, Lawtown, correct? Born and raised?
Correct. Actually, a lot of people don't know. I wasn't born in Lawrence. I was born in Methuen, Mass. But yeah, I was born
these days.
It was basically the same thing. All that whole area, but I'm from Lawrence. It was just a hospital thing. One of those. Mom popped into the Bon Secure Hospital instead of Lawrence General. So yeah.
Yeah, and I grew up not too far from there in Georgetown, Mass, in southern New Hampshire. So I'm quite familiar with Lawrence. My grandfather spent a lot of time in Lawrence General. So I'm very familiar with the area, and that area is it. Talk about growing up in that area for you. I mean, I've talked to Term about growing up in the area, but your experience to me is interesting in that area.
Yeah, I mean, the history of Lawrence is obviously very vast, and we have a unique situation in my family being one of the very few black families coming from the south and moving up to the north during the Black migration north. A lot of individuals were heading north. My grandparents did that, and then Grampy created a situation for my mom to raise me up there. My father wasn't truly involved throughout my life. He died young. Planted seeds around, and there's a whole village of us, that sprouted around based on his dealings. So I should say. My mom was very young when she had me, and she was 16 years old, just about to be 17 years old, and we were in an environment that was at that period in time. I believe it was unique, as in it had a lot of Lebanese, Italian, and some Hispanic, Latin families arriving in kind of the same way. But they were different sectioned off environments in Lawrence. And if you know, Lawrence is a very small. One side is a bowl. There's Tower Hill and Prospect Hill with the valley and those two peaks, and then just across the three bridges, there's South Lawrence that leads into Andover and heads on the highway up to Boston. So not too huge of an area, but still sectioned off for different cultural groups. So we were a family that kind of were in the Juniper Street area. That's where my family was until my schoolyard, my school days. And then I was just thrust into this environment, this unique environment.
Yeah. So were you a breakdancer? What came first, the breakdancing or the rapping?
Breakdancing, absolutely. Yeah,
I've never seen your moves.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a very, very good thing. I was very young, probably around 11, 12 years old, and just following my older cousins and wanting to do. I didn't understand the hip hop thing, but the break dancing, I love to dance. We just love to be active, out playing football, out playing basketball, love to move. And this was just a unique thing. My cousins breaking out cardboard boxes, cutting up cardboard boxes in the street, so we could do headstands, turn into head spins and back spins, and all these just unique things that we were doing as young ones. And connecting to the music came after entering into these. There was this little makeshift theater that we had on was it Union Street? No, it was Jackson Street. On Jackson Street in Lawrence, It was like a little small theater, and they were showing like Breaking Two, Electric Boogaloo, and Beat Street, and Wild Style, and all these different you know great visuals that gave specifically Beat Street gave presence to the rapping aspect. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where that came from.
So who was the MC that like got you first?
Cool Mo D.
You know, Kumo D doesn't get. He was really good for it. You know, he's really good. He had a lot of good things to say, but he does not get the cred longevity wise that he should, in my opinion. Would you agree with that?
Of course, I mean Kumo D was number one. He was the first. He was the onset. Like it became KRS-One, but Kumo D was the one who drew my attention first. It was those big shades. He looked like this. He looked like this artistic character. I just didn't understand, like the big shades covering his whole
Yeah.
face and the hat, the way he had his hat and his whole style just gave an energy that looked so different than everything that I was seeing with individuals who look like me, you know.
Yeah.
So I was drawn to I was drawn to his energy, and you know, just the stylings of individuals like him and KRS-One, you know, spoke volumes to, like, you know, who I wanted to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kool Moe Dee's message and his songs are so powerful. I mean, I can still listen to him today and they resonate, and I'm like, word, you know what I mean? Like, but it's just like he just disappeared in the '90s. It was done, you know. It was like,
Yeah. I mean, I think twofold battles kind of, like, you know,
yeah,
destroyed a legacy kind of similar to MC Shan. Like,
yeah,
you know, you have real dope, MCs who were just unfortunate victims of a time. You know, like
yeah.
a battle situation that didn't you know, lean their way. So I think that's what occurred.
Word. So, how old are you when you start rapping?
I had to be around the same time. I was like about 12, 13.
Well,
And it was because I got called out for, like, you know, reciting a Kumo D, the Christmas rap. I
yeah.
was I was reciting that rhyme, and a girl called me out in the schoolyard. She's like, "That's not yours," you know. And so I felt faced. So I had to, like, you know, I had to go back and get my own name. And in the beginning it was MC Rock. You know,
That's
other than Rex, it was one other name, MC Rock.
the first names are always the best, man. We always
They're
talk
always,
about the first names, man. It's MC Rock, yes.
yeah,
Is that
MC
just
Rock,
was it
bro.
ROCK? Is that how you spelled
No,
it?
it was actually, you know what? It was ROCK. Yeah,
Yes,
gotcha,
dude.
gotcha.
Yes,
Yeah, ROCK. Yeah, MC
word.
Rock. It was real simplistic, but it worked.
So when? How did you? So did you come up with Rex just by the Rhythmatic Eternal King Supreme, or did you come up with Rex with it? Did it mean something else back then?
So in the beginning, and Easy Money would be the biggest one to say that the name changed.
Yeah,
I believe it was I don't even remember this. He probably remembers this. And me and Easy don't go way back, but I believe there was a period of time when I was still, like, just starting off, where I was
yeah.
saying Rhyme Eternal King Supreme.
Ah,
And then but I really don't hold anytime it was written down on anything, anytime it was, like, socially, like, written down, it's always been Rhythmatic Eternal King Supreme. And, you know, I think thinking about Illmatic and thinking about, you know, how that word hit and stuff like that kind of lent itself to that. But KRS-One was the main reason why I I had the acronym.
yeah,
KRS-One was, growing up, he was B1 for me, and
yep,
you know, it just had to be Rhythmatic Eternal King Supreme. I mean, my latest album, Things. I loved the acronym feel, and so
yeah.
yeah, it all comes from KRS-One.
Yeah. And Karis won, in my opinion, one of the best MCs ever, and arguably the best live MC. I mean, to be
Yeah.
going the Middle East, the KRS-One shows at the Middle East are some of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, salute to you for that, and for, like, consistently, like, you know, bringing to the table, like, you know, some of the goats and some of the goat shows. You know,
Yeah.
you like you're a legend where we are from, and like you've done a lot for the state and New England in general. You know, and expanding out to like other locations. But yeah, KRS um, as a live performer, I remember that. I think the first one I actually got to see live was where I forget where it was somewhere on Lansdowne, and it was a venue. He turned off all the lights were turned off, and he was throwing all these glow in the dark um, tennis balls around. It was crazy. It was like it was like something from like Blue Man's Group or something like that. Um, Sorry, that's like a long, but like it was like some Blue Men's Group, like mixed with hip hop vibration. So it was like super
Yeah.
dope. But every time I went to a KRS One show or seen him live, he, Busta Rhymes, Red and Meth, these individuals kind of like made me clear the roots, made it clear to me what I had to do to be an MC on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're naming off real positive MCs. You're talking about real lyricists that inspired you to do this. People that had something to say. That's what
absolutely.
kind of well, you weren't that inspired. Were you inspired by gangster rap in the '90s? Was that a thing for
I
you?
wasn't.
Or
And I come from a territory full of like gangs. You know, I
yeah,
was,
Social.
I had a crew. I won't say a gang. I had a crew that I ran with, and we were approached by plenty of gangs coming up in Lawrence, but it wasn't going to go down that way. We had our little section of individuals, and we were living righteous for our version of righteous at the time.
Right.
The way to approach. We're still doing schoolyard buffoonery and wilding out, but yeah, my whole approach was definitely leaning towards conscious, uplifting, talking about poverty, politics, economics, social commentary. Before I even knew what those phrases really meant, like that was the day to day scenario growing up in my household. Being in foster care, seeing a father die of AIDS, then followed by uncles dying of AIDS. All these circumstances led to uh, the only understanding of how I would express myself and deal with my personal trauma, because I had so much trauma. And especially being a black male in the United States, you don't learn how to grieve. You don't learn about depression. You don't learn about the statistics of individuals who are like you. In the same way that like other individuals have access to therapy, and music was my personal therapy, and I dove into the books, and I just spoke about what I was experiencing.
Yeah. I come across you. I started going to shows in like early 2000s. I started hearing about Reks. Like you, how did you how did you get into the Boston hip hop scene? Because you get into the circuit pretty early, before your first album is out. You're up there with Schizophrenics. You're up there with Seven Esoteric. You get in with all those guys that are there, Mr. Lip, all these guys, Acrobatic, all these guys, Edo G, all these guys that are Boston dudes. How did you maneuver in there? And talk to me about that era, because this is Reks. This is the next
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
This is the whole buzz right going on. Early 2000s.
So for me, it started in '96, leaving high school and heading out to UMass Amherst, and meeting a few individuals who would kind of shape my next maneuvers for the next few years. David Temkin, we call Shea Boogs. He was a regular at early on at Traffic Entertainment Group, and down with Brick, working in those offices. But he was my first manager. He had a radio show called Breath Control at UMass Amherst that I would attend with Lucky Dice and with Magoo, one of the original Soul Searchers, did my first two albums.
Yep.
So these individuals were my first experience of like saying, okay, we're going to go into a studio and record. And so from being in that environment and that summer deciding that I would be the original college dropout, I was going to be the first one to like, do what Kanye did, right? Like I'm just
So
speaking
you're the
Kanye
only
'cause
one to ever. You're the only one to ever to drop out of college.
no, no, no.
You're the
I'm the
first
only
one
one who was like,
ever.
this specific situation. College dropout, go this route, and have this this ego driven idea about how my next 10 years would unfold.
Right.
But I went to Boston, got to Boston with this group of individuals. We started a crew, and this was the period where there were corner ciphers and different events that would occur where you'd have a who's who of individuals outside of the event prior to going in, where you had to sharpen your blades with the likes of individuals like Esoteric and Acrobatic, Mr. Liff, and Alias, OVM. Like there were so many just like sharp swords to like deal with. And I was in a cipher outside, I believe, Bill's Bar at the time, and it was with Checkmark. A Schizophrenics, and rest in peace Eddie Bones, and Top Notch. And I had an opportunity, myself and Top Notch, whoever spit the best verse with Check was going to get on this record, Schizophrenic Mind State. And that's how it happened, really, for me. Check really felt my verse and put me on, really felt my bars, put me on this record, and introduced me to Brick Records, and that created the opportunity for me.
Yeah, and you went full blast. You went and then you recorded "Along Came the Chosen."
Absolutely, yep.
That's the one
Along Came the Chosen.
Produced entirely by Soul Searchers.
Well, I would say it's 98% produced by Soul Searchers. There was a track produced by Ray Fernandez. Boston Butter Beats, Boston Butter Beats. That's my guy. You'd go to Ray's studio and Ray would spend like at least 3/4 of your session talking about the Red Sox. Watching, this was a typical Ray session, and then we'd spend an hour banging out classic material, and but it was great. Ray did a production on there, and I believe I want to say. The very first Statik Selektah beat was on that album. Terrible.
Because that's a transition, right? From Along Comes the Chosen, right? That's all Soul Searchers, that's whatnot. You make the transition after that with Statik, right? Like the Statik relationship takes you to the next level, right?
Absolutely.
That's where you get into gray hairs, right?
Indeed, right? And I was done. I was done rapping. Statik actually.
Let me ask you, just stop you real quick. Why were you done? Did you not like how Along Came the Chosen was received? Is that why you felt like you were done?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But at the same time, I fell in love for the first time, and I had my first son, and I truly didn't understand what it was like to be a struggling rapper who was not making any money, and was trying to be a good man and take care of his wife and child. And so, we had our difficulties. I was working at a program. I didn't really work many jobs in my life, but my one of the main jobs that I've done in my lifetime was working in programs dealing with with the youth or individuals with mental illness or anything like that.
Yep.
So I was working in some situations like that for a period of time, and I had the whole setup. This is what I was going to do, because the music thing just wasn't working. I had said, I'm done with it. I'm not gonna go the whole fatherhood, husband wife thing. And I had a slip in the mentality for a second. My wife at the time was fed up with me and moved to Florida. And so this was the period where, for a period of time I was gone. 7 years I spent in South Florida, restructuring everything and fixing my life with my family. And
I would like to say real quick, before you just make the move to Florida, your hustle to try to get your music out was impressive. I mean, you were at the shows in people's face with your CD in mixtape, like, buy this motherfucker.
Oh yeah.
There's no,
Oh yeah.
and
Because
you wouldn't take first no. Like, you're a great salesman because, instead of telling you take 3 no's, you take at least 5 no's.
oh
And
yeah.
I'd be like, yo, and you'd come up to me. We didn't know each other that well. I'd be like, yo, I work with Metro Concepts. I know who you are. I have the album. You're like, buy another one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You
That's
have
your
cousins.
hustle, bro.
You
Your
have
hustle is
cousins.
crazy.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And you know, we definitely beyond that scope, Dice and I, we would
On the street.
literally be on the streets. We'd
On the
stop
streets.
cars at the
Yeah.
stoplight and we'd be like, put this inside the tape deck now. And
And this is,
I was
yeah, go
very
ahead.
aggressive. I was very aggressive,
You were.
definitely in my
You were.
in my time. Yeah, I was very aggressive and
But
loud.
that was what was needed back then. I hate to say it. You needed to be an aggressive with your music on the street because there was no social media. How was
Exactly.
anyone
Yeah,
moving if you didn't have a budget behind you pushing you? How else is anyone going to hear your music if you don't
yeah,
put it in people's hands? So,
exactly.
as aggressive as it is, as people think it might be now, that's how a lot of people got on. You know what I mean? And that's how you had
Yeah,
to do.
it's absolutely, yeah, it's absolutely different now, and you're absolutely right about that. Like we had to approach it the way we approached it, and it was the only way. A lot of times, it was the only way I was gonna put noodles and ramen noodles in
Right.
in my stomach. You know, like for a period of time, that was the only possibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our approach with it, and we were aggressive with it. But like, I felt the need to go down to Florida, try to rekindle everything, and
Yep.
I was selling like, I was doing insurance claims down at this uh rinky dink, like little hole in the wall, and Static and Term came down and wanted to get up down in Miami. We linked up. Static let me know he was starting his own imprint, and he wanted me involved. He's like, come up, see, take a chance with it, and we recorded Gray Hairs. And from that point on, it was like, okay, uh, we can do this.
Yeah, and Gray Hairs is now 2008. I'm thinking, right? 2008.
2008.
Yeah, and Static. We're also talking about Large Pro, DC the MIDI Alien, and of course DJ Premier. And you record "Say Goodnight," and I'm guessing this is where everything starts to change massive. Because I remember we working together, and you're like, when I recorded that song, I came out. A lot of things changed for me.
Oh yeah.
Talk about
That
working with.
that was a massive paradigm shift in like everything for us.
Talk about working. I want to know the process of making "Say Goodnight" because that's a banger. So, what was that like making that track?
So the Sega Night story is we originally we recorded that without like prior to us like even recording or him even agreeing to do a record on the album. We were coming through. I was a fly on the wall, just listening to Primo tell these classic stories of Nas and Jay and obviously Gangstar and just some incredible Biggie stories. Like it just was. I had nothing to say. I was just absorbing and immersing myself in what was going on around me. We got the opportunity to play some records, and he enjoyed what he heard, and said he would be willing to do something life changing moment. Um, and so we got the record, and we actually recorded the record not in his studio. We recorded that in Static's original. No, not his first place, his second place out in Brooklyn. Um,
Word.
and we recorded it there, and then we leave. We're excited about it. Now I dissed about 6 or 7 people on this record. The original Say Goodnight record, I dissed about 6 or 7 people, and I was like, "This is my opportunity. I'm gonna I'm gonna really go for the gusto." People I had no reason to be dissing.
Did you
I
name
just
drop? Did you name
Oh
drop
yeah,
people?
I name dropped everyone. I name dropped everyone. So
Wow.
um, I name drop, have the record ready to go. We are actually we were on a tour. I don't remember where we were on tour, but we're on a tour. We come back, and then I'm staying at my cousin's house. Like I'm like sleeping on our floor. Uh, in South Lawrence projects, and I get a call, and it's Primo. It's Statik and Primo, and Statik's like, Primo wants to. He doesn't even say anything. He just gets on the phone. He says, Primo wants to talk to you. Primo gets on the phone. He's like, yo, son, you ain't got these stripes. Like, he starts just going in on me.
Yo.
He's like, yo, I got relationships with certain people you talking to, bro. Like, like, yo, it's all love, but like, yo, you gotta pipe down on all this. So apparently, I'm not gonna say no names, but somebody came in. I know who it is. Somebody came in and made mention that, like, yo, Primo was headed out on the tour, and he needed to get the mix to Statik. So we had this person go into the studio, grab it, and send it to Statik, but he listened first, and he's like, yo, this is crazy. Like, yo, you got to hear this first. Have you heard the record? And Primo's like, yo, I didn't get a chance to hear the record. So there it was. Once he heard the record, it was over. He was like, no, cut it down. So, like, there are spots in that record where you can listen to it and you can tell that I'm talking about certain individuals. And when we do the performance, we say some of these names. But
what was kept was that you called out the South.
Oh yeah,
which I always found interesting, because I always figured you called out the South because you were living down there in Florida at the time, or you were down there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You were down there for a while, so I'm guessing you were. I always figured you got hip to like all the Southern music, which is a whole different thing, and you're probably like, nah, this ain't for me. You know what I mean? Is that?
It was really it was to a degree hearing it really being up north, to be honest, and hearing what I was hearing, just not appreciating, like, what was coming out.
Right.
And hindsight 2020 and perspective being everything, like I had a very egotistical and aggressive approach to like how I was when I was younger, and I had individuals within my inner circle who were like, you must pump the brakes with some of that stuff. Like, you're kind of like stepping in your own way a little bit, with certain things. You may think it's like the way to get to certain successes, and like you're actually, stepping on your own toes. And so, I didn't really want to hear any of that. Like, I really felt, freedom of speech. Let me say, what I have to say about who I have to say it about, and address every issue as if it has anything to do with me. And looking back, I'm like, there's room for so much more. And right now, I'm so much more accepting of, like, separations of different styles, and letting people live in their own creativity, and understanding that the nature of that. Like, I don't, prejudge any individual who chooses to approach it a different way, and be judgmental about individuals. I've been there, and I just don't think it's necessary for me to be judgmental about people being different, and having different approaches.
Yeah. Moving forward, the second album, Rhythmatic Eternal King Supreme, follow up, you add on, like, this is even a bigger album now, because you bring Primo back for 25th Hour, which is just bananas. I love that song. That's probably my favorite. Were you in the studio to record that with him this time, or did you have to do it different on the studio again?
This one actually, so let me just say, the Steak and Night record, we actually had to go back and record with Primo, because he was like, you're gonna record, you're gonna change the lyrics, and we're gonna record this here. So no, we re-recorded that there, and then 25th Hour. I recorded 25th Hour in Florida. I actually recorded that in a studio. Shout out to my man Anthem. Anthem Studios. We recorded that in Miami, and I didn't record with Primo. This was right in the middle of that period in time. I was noticing how, like, you weren't really doing in the studio recording a lot. Things are being shipped such and such. It was strange to be in Statik's basement, though, because there was a who's who of everybody in his basement at the time. Like, a lot of those records were not being pieced together, which created was responsible for a lot of creativity at the time, coming out of Statik's spot. But you know, for the most part, I was seeing like the beginnings of like, you know, not really recording uh right in front of or in the same presence of a lot of individuals. And so sadly I didn't record with Primo the second record, and also the Why Cry record. I will say we went out to LA to record with with Alchemist, but Alchemist is one of the highest persons I've ever met. Like he's one of the coolest dudes I've ever met. But like he got so high he just went in the other room with Static. We recorded in his house, but Static recorded it. I was
Yeah,
supposed to record with Alchemist, but yeah, Static recorded that record because he got too high. He just went, you
I'm
know,
not surprised.
and did the Alchemist thing.
And also you recruit Pete Rock, Knox, Static, Sean Money, High Tech, a few others on this album. I mean, that's a production crew and a half, man.
Oh yeah, you know, executive produced by Static Selektah and his intentions of like, you know, making this what it was supposed to be. Like it was important um for us to do, you know, the original recipe that we were seeing on records that we loved, which was like just classic production across the
Mm-hmm.
board. Like when you think of like these classic albums, you look at I remember looking at the back credits and going through and seeing who produced what, you know, memorizing who produced it, who they sampled at the time before who sampled.com and all that extra, right? Like we were in this mind frame of like, you know, who sampled what and figuring out you know, that's dope. This dude flipped this way, or you know what I mean? And so yeah, like that's where that was, you know.
So you made two classic albums, production wise. I'm saying like New England classics. How do you feel after that? Where's your mind at after that? I mean, did you? I mean, at that point, you must be like, "Wow, I did it." you
I
know?
felt I felt like there was you know, there was opportunity to do more, and like there was an opportunity to like you know, get out and see the world, man. And like that's when we were like, you know, it's time to, you know, travel, and it's time to like, you know, see the response from people from these projects. And that's
Right,
when we hit Europe. That's when I really hit Europe for the first time. Um,
right.
After that album, you know, prior to, you know, I did a double album following that. You know, I'm not double album. I did two albums in 1 year after that, and that was the move. But like, yeah, right after Reks, it was time to do the self-titled album. It was time to do Europe. You
And
know,
you did, and then over the time period now, you've recorded 7 more albums, right? Like there's been you have not slowed down.
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And I don't intend to. I have like 5 albums recorded, you know, and you know, projects ready to go. But like in terms of from that period till now, it was so necessary for me to just stay at it, stick to it, and get kind of like that ball rolling, because you know, like, you know, you start turning that wheel, and then you have to build up the momentum, and that's kind of like where we were with it. But in the midst of all that, like, you know, just like as when I was younger and dealing with a lot of the trauma, I was also still stuck in this period of attempting to find myself, figure out who I was, not only as an artist but as an individual. You know, so that's where my greatest difficulties were lying, and figuring out who I was, and more than anything, it was alcohol that I turned to like kind of disconnect me from um you know, the environment that I was in, and just to keep myself going, and to be able to say, okay, I can be in the midst of all this chaos, even though, you know, I wanted some structure and stability in my life. I could deal with it being chaotic if there was chaos coming my way, because you know, if ever there was a falter or ever there was an issue, I could always just, you know, blame the bottle. I could blame, you know, it on my drinking. You know, missed the show time, missed the show set, missed the you know, missed an interview. Uh, wasn't so cordial to a fan, wasn't so cordial to a family member, wasn't on point in general, I could always blame there. So, you know, this is a period while I'm in the midst of like, so many incredible things going on, I was seeking, I was still seeking, something. And as of right now, where I am now, and having knowledge of self, and being in a place where I'm very at peace, you know, and going from thinking that I always had to do the teaching, and being more of a student these days. I think that's where I found my greatest peace, and I feel like I'm making some of the best music now because it's reflective of me truly understanding who I am as an individual, you know.
Yeah, and I've seen you, let's talk about this morning meditation or morning spiritual practice you've got going on here, because I've seen this. I'm not up early enough to do it with you, but
It's all good.
let's talk about this practice you do and what you got going on now.
All right, so back a year ago, I started doing live because I'm an avid reader. I read like from various different books throughout the day. My books consist mostly of spiritual books, and then I have a lot of financial, from Warren Buffett to like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and a lot of Michael Lewis. I like a lot of Michael Lewis books. Um, and so I read from these very different books, but I felt like when I read to family members, specifically my wife, like, I like to read to her a lot. And I knew that there are a lot of individuals who like, they either like audiobooks or they like, to engage by hearing, are more actively learning if they're like engaged that way. And for me, I can't learn that way personally. I have to be speaking out loud. I need to be by a tree. I need to be in certain environments for real to like, just really engulf myself in what I'm reading, right? But I knew there were individuals out there who needed that, who wanted that. And so I just decided one day that I was just gonna like, start reading online and see how it affected individuals, and incorporate some of my daily rituals. Like I wake up at 5 a.m., but when I'm up at 5 a.m., I'm doing my rituals for a few hours. So I would do that. I would wake up at 5, do my rituals, my prayers, my meditations, my yoga, and now qigong is a major part of what we do too. But I would do those things, and then at 9 o'clock I would log on, and I'd sit there for 3 hours and do it online. And we did that for, we're not doing it currently, but we did that for from January to June every single day. And the only reason why I really stopped is because I just moved. Um, I was living in Florida then for a year, and then I moved. We're currently in Georgia, and we've been in Georgia since that June, July period. And that transition, just with a lot that we have going on with our personal businesses, because we do No Swine Law with food and catering, and just health and wellness stuff in general. I had to focus more on that, and focus on some of this finance stuff. I'm a heavy investor as well, so I wanted to focus there. So um, I needed to take a pause. I needed to take a pause for a second, and kind of like, show some self love, because I was sending a lot of good vibrations into the environment, but I was being affected a little bit because I was carrying a lot without, expelling some of that. And that's still part of the learning process. But I felt it was a beautiful opportunity to assist individuals who needed that. And I'm constantly in the DMs getting people hitting me like, when you're going back to the lives, we need you in the lives and the rising. And I do plan to do something that will be impactful for individuals who are just like me, who are in need of something like that, and they're out there seeking and searching. Uh, it really got weird for me when Instagram started hitting me about doing badges and going live, and I was like, this live is not that. And I would not feel comfortable if I'm like, dealing with crystals and speaking from, comedic books, and reading the Bible and the Quran. And then in the midst of that, it's like badges are popping up, like, yo, somebody just sent you $1. And like, I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's not why you're doing it.
That's not why we're doing this. So, I purged when I came to Georgia. I purged my Instagram. I started deleting a lot of unnecessary information, and I needed to disconnect from a lot of stuff that was like really toxic, and it was self-inflicted a lot because it was things that I was paying attention to that was not really beneficial to my growth in the midst of like what I'm doing, and that's why me recently, just recently, being done with alcohol and like only being a month in, I've detoxified for periods of times, but I've never done what I'm committed to doing right now, and say sober is king, and being like, I'm ready to walk on that walk now, because I know who I am now, and I'm comfortable, saying that out, speaking that into existence, and getting there was quite a process, but it took me disconnecting from the things that like I was still holding on to as crutches. And so now I'm comfortable being vulnerable, being openly vulnerable, and knowing that it's going to be difficult. I can't say, I can't say that like, I've walked the walk that many individuals have walked, but I'm thankful to all individuals who hit me up and be like, yo, we're here for you. If you need anything, we got you,
Yep. I mean, I'm sober 12, going on 13 years.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and in our industry, booze is almost looked at as a tool. It's like what you're saying. It's like tools of the trade, and it accelerates the process a lot when you're in these environments and everybody's drinking. It's hard to stay sober. It is really hard.
Yeah.
And like you said, use it as a crutch, and it gets its hooks in you, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't get these hooks out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did see your post about you pouring the last beer down the drain. I don't know if it was the last one, but it was the one you said was it. And I thought it was funny that it was a Sam Adams Boston Lager.
Yeah, it was kind of like it had its representation, right? But no, that wasn't the last one. It was like it was more symbolic. I actually have some beers that are in my refrigerator, and there's, if individuals come here, like I'll be like, if you want to take, I offered my dad, and he was like, nah, man. I'm like, he's taking a pause now, and it's real cool because the people in my inner circle, the family members around me, like we utilize certain vices as an opportunity to come together and to celebrate, rather than like my wife and I, we're real corny, so we do karaoke and we do, like a lot of corny stuff, but like fun for us, and like that's the thing that can work for us without it having to include those things that kind of like bring us down or put us in dark places, and I'm not like using this as an opportunity to be like judgmental about anybody and what you choose to do. If you're in an environment and I'm there, and you offer me a drink, I'm not going to take it, but I'm also not going to be offended if you're drinking around me. Like that's the same thing as when I quit smoking cigarettes. Like when I quit a few times, I always would have a problem with individuals either smoking around me or just like I would use certain things as an excuse. And the reality is I don't want anybody smoking around me, but it's not a reason for me to say, let me pick up one, or it's not going to deter me. Because an individual is choosing to do what they do with their life. We all get to our place in life when we get there. I can't, perspective is big for me now. Like, so I can't judge somebody who's not where I am spiritually. I can't judge somebody who's not where I am mentally. I can only appreciate that life moves the way it moves, and there's lessons to be had in all of it,
Absolutely. I mean, I think the fact, I've always found that alcohol or alcoholism, whatever you want to call it, affects you physically, mentally, and spiritually. So if you're not dealing with a solution on those three levels, it's going to be hard to kick it. And it seems like you have these tools in place. So I wish you luck on that journey, and you can reach out to me you can reach out to me. I know you know a lot of other of us that
And
are on the same
I
path.
will, I absolutely will. I thank you for that. And I think it's important to be able to say, like I said, be vulnerable, but like be like, if I have to reach out and ask a question, I have no difficulty in doing that and knowing that I don't know. Big thing for me is knowing that I don't know and not having a problem with that.
Right.
And so I'm an avid student, fam, and yeah, like just to see the I didn't want to bring up your situation, but I've admired it from afar, and like and I've had respect for that fact. The same thing with Slain, the same thing with and Slain because it's an open, it's an open,
Yeah.
continuously open situation and Deadeye as well, man. Like it's beautiful to see how y'all move and operate and function, and realizing that it's not necessary. And when I've taken pauses and breaks from it, I've always known it's not something I've needed. Like it's only out of me letting it with like the metote, which is the mental fog or the clutter to like fog my mind. I allow that to be the case because I want it to be the case, and that's the only reality. I get on the road, and I can be a chaotic mess, and I can be disrespectful and always have that crutch, but I don't want that. Like I know a lot of people are hitting me now for tours and stuff like that, and with things changing. And I've have different requests. I don't have like diva-ish requests, but my requests now all revolve around my plant-based diet, my plant-based nutrition, and making sure that there can be drinks around me, but I don't require a Henny bottle, which was the beginning of my tour days. I needed Henny, and then it changed to Glenlivet, like I need a
Is it
bottle of
high
Glenlivet.
end?
Oh yeah. It was Glenlivet, and like I had to have some kind of like Highland Scotch, right? And then from there, also having Heineken's bottles that I didn't even drink, but it would be like a case of Heineken's, a case of like just some kind of bottle. And now everything revolves around like I said, plant-based eating, and just knowing that there's real quality water and things of that nature. And I'm not on stage at 3 a.m. because again I need to rise at a certain time. And if I have to rise later, that's fine. But I prefer to rise before the sun rises. You know?
Well, you'll make a lot of promoters happy with that. They'll
Oh
save
yeah.
money. They'll save money on alcohol. I tell you, I've had to supply a lot of Hennessy bottles for a lot of headliners.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I will also tell you my story of seeing rappers not be able to get on stage without it, and that was always sad to me. To get to the point where, and I'm sure a little of that was going on with you and
Oh
a
yeah.
few other people we know. It's like it just couldn't get on stage without it, and it was
Yeah.
like, man, you don't want to end up like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And throwing up at the end of the show. You know what I mean? I've seen some crazy shit. I know you have too. And
Yeah.
the fact that you've kicked this or you're working at it one day at a time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's too far along. Yesterday doesn't matter. Today is what matters. You know, things will get better, and you'll benefit. Hands down.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I mean that's wise words, fam. And like I appreciate hearing that. And it's helpful. And I like hearing individual stories and recognizing what goes on with other individuals is like, great food for my mind. But again, waking up in the rising and going outside, putting my feet on the earth, like, barefoot. I make sure I ground in earth every single day. I deal with
Yep.
a lot of crystals, like I said, and talking to the trees, being out in the environment, doing what I do. That's what matters the most for me, more than anything, because those things uh, help me to understand my physical, my mental, and my spiritual that you brought up. And those three things absolutely are key to my day to day well being, knowing that I'm not just this physical vessel, but I got to take care of it. The mental, I got to take care of it. I make sure the toxicity that is not around me. The most toxic thing I really have on is Bloomberg, and I don't really pay attention to Bloomberg more than just like, just seeing certain breaks and things of that nature. But all that is a repetitive cycle in itself as well. You know, outside of that, I'm not really into what's going on the environment around me. It's what's going on inside to understand me, to understand what's what's going on around me, and that's what matters most. You know?
That's beautiful stuff, man. We're gonna wrap this up. I want to really thank you for your time, man. It's been great building with you. I'll see you in a couple days. We got some other stuff going on.
That's right. We got some work to do.
We got some do. We won't tell everybody yet, but it's coming. It's a good one. And yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Leedz Edutainment Podcast with Reks. Thank you, brother. Let's talk soon.
Appreciate you, brother. Take it easy.
Peace. Good luck on your journey, man.
Thank you. Peace.